It was supposed to be a routine strike. A quiet afternoon, a damaged bridge, and a Russian convoy crawling straight into a trap. Easy target, until the hunters realized they weren't alone. Because the moment Ukraine's Shark drone sent its first burst of video, something on the Russian side started listening and hunting. What unfolded next wasn't just another mission. It was a race against math, machines, and the invisible battlefield no camera ever shows. A mission where one mistake didn't just mean failure, it meant disappearing without a trace. And yet somehow, what happened in the next few minutes would flip every expectation on its head. The real danger didn't start with bullets or explosions. It started the moment the drone powered on. Every signal it sent was like shouting into the sky, and something on the Russian side was trained to hear it. That Shark D was circling a broken bridge, watching a convoy inch forward with a howitzer in tow. Perfect setup, unless your signal gives you away. The Russian Zoopark radar wasn't even built for drones. It was meant to track artillery shells mid-flight, trace the lines backward and erase the people who fired them. But radio is radio, and once they realized drone controllers were just another signal source, they turned the system into a hunter. It only needed a few bearings from different angles. Where those lines crossed, that's where the operators were hiding. 3 minutes later, steel starts falling from the sky. The Ukrainian team knew the odds. Transmit too long, and you might not transmit ever again, but they also knew this mission couldn't wait. For the operators on the ground, the mission wasn't just about guiding a drone. It was about outliving the clock. Every second of transmission pushed their luck. Too long on one frequency, and the Zoopark would draw a line straight to them. 2 lines? Bad. 3 lines? Game over. So they fought the only way they could, by staying unpredictable. They hopped through 128 frequencies every single second, dropping tiny bursts of data, then going radio silent for half a minute, just enough to keep the Shark on course without giving the Russians a clean target. But then things took a darker turn. Thermal sensors lit up with something approaching from the north. A Russian Orlan 10 drone, sweeping the area like a heat-seeking bloodhound. It could spot human body heat from 2 kilometers away. Suddenly, the team had a choice: keep eyes on the convoy and risk exposure, or hide under thermal blankets and go blind. Either option meant danger. Only one would keep them alive. Going blind wasn't the problem. Going silent was. The strike team 4 kilometers away still needed the latest coordinates before the convoy slipped past the choke point. Normally, they'd hand everything over by radio. Precise vectors, wind data, timing, all spoken fast. But 2 teams transmitting at once would light up the spectrum like a flare. So the operators tried something smarter. Before diving under their thermal blankets, they told the Shark to drop what they called a digital breadcrumb. One tiny encrypted burst on a frequency. The Russians barely cared about 433 megahertz. It lasted just 0.3 seconds. Too short to trace, too scrambled to decode, too unusual to even notice. Yet inside that sliver of data was everything the strike team needed: position, speed, approach angle, optimal attack window. When the packet hit their receiver, the Ukrainians knew the convoy was still creeping toward the bridge, and now the clock was ticking louder than ever. The FPV pilot powered up his drone at 1445, a 7-inch carbon fiber frame loaded with a 2-kilogram shaped charge. Battery full, flight time tight, target only minutes away. For the first stretch, everything was smooth. The drone hugged tree lines, skimmed rubble, and streamed back a clean video feed. Then, at exactly 2 kilometers out, the picture started to die. Static crept in. Frames dropped. Colors smeared. A Russian Repellent 1 jammer had locked onto the corridor. Imagine a microwave with the door open, blasting raw electromagnetic noise across every drone frequency in reach. The Ukrainian transmitter was a whisper. The jammer was a hurricane. The operator switched to a backup band far below normal drone channels. The feed returned to be grainy, delayed, barely usable, but it was enough to keep going. At least for now, because the Russians weren't using just one jammer, and the worst interference was still ahead. 2 kilometers out was bad, but the next stretch was a full-blown electronic abyss. The Ukrainians weren't facing one jammer. They were flying into layers of them. Vehicle-mounted systems, trench units buried every few hundred meters, and somewhere deeper behind Russian lines, a Pole 21 array blanketing the sky. Within seconds, the video feed collapsed completely. No picture, No horizon, nothing. The drone was flying blind. So the operator switched to dead reckoning. Pure math and instinct. Last known position, convoy speed, compass bearing, altitude, time elapsed. If the numbers were right, the truck would be rolling onto the bridge now. If the numbers were wrong, the drone was just a fast-moving brick. Then out of nowhere, a miracle. One single frame of video flickered through the static. A 1/60th of a second glimpse, the bridge in sight. The convoy exactly where math said it would be. The feed vanished again, but that flash was enough. Now the drone only needed 400 more meters to let its onboard AI lock onto the target, if it survived long enough to see it. Just when the drone caught a glimpse of the bridge, something else appeared in that split-second frame. A Russian interceptor dropping from above, diving like a hawk with one goal: knock it out of the sky. Both drones closed in at almost 280 km, 4 seconds to react. And the Ukrainian drone was heavier, slower, weighed down by its warhead. The operator threw it into a hard left turn, frame shaking under the G-force. The interceptor shot past, looping for another strike. There was no way to outmaneuver it, unless the operator did something the Russian pilot wouldn't expect. He cut the throttle. The drone dropped instantly, falling from 15 meters to almost ground level. The interceptor dove straight through empty space. A quick burst of power saved the Ukrainian drone from smashing into the dirt. Now both drones were low, slow, and burning battery fast. So the operator made one last gamble. A vertical climb, a sudden stall, a lightning-fast spin, and a dive straight past the interceptor's nose. 18 seconds, one impossible escape. And somehow, the drone was still racing toward the bridge. The drone shot out of the dogfight straight into gunfire. Russian soldiers on the bridge were already aiming before it even appeared. An AK burst hit first, one round slicing a motor cable and sending the drone drifting sideways. Then a shotgun roared. 2 pellets connected, one killed a front motor, the other punched the battery, dumping its voltage fast. Now the drone was limping on 2 motors, barely staying in the air. Skimming so low, one soldier couldn't angle his rifle downward enough to hit it. The video feed was warped, AI struggling to hold a lock, battery seconds from dying. But even crippled, it pushed through the last stretch, crawling toward the convoy. All it needed now was one clean hit. At the final 10 meters, the drone was shaking, dying, and barely holding altitude, but the AI finally locked onto the truck. The proximity sensor armed itself, battery dropping below safe levels. It slammed into the target at barely 60 km/h, but that was enough. The shaped charge punched through the ammo load in the back. A split second later, multiple artillery shells cooked off at once, blasting the truck upward and shattering the already damaged bridge. The whole convoy collapsed into the river below. Smoke climbing into the sky as the shark drone overhead recorded everything. One crippled FPV, one hit, and the entire crossing was gone. When the smoke settled, the bridge was gone. The convoy was destroyed, and the Russians had no way across for kilometers. All from one recon drone, one FPV, and a team hiding under thermal blankets, praying their math was right. This is what modern warfare looks like now. No front lines, no warning, just invisible signals. AI doing calculations in milliseconds, and operators fighting battles you never see. One tiny drone flown through jammers, gunfire, and an interceptor changed the entire fight in minutes.